welcome back to another video. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody with the response I had with my last video with the Canon 90D, and all the new subscribers. Thank you for coming and being part of the channel. Hopefully will be putting out another video with the 90D, but I think I most likely will be sending it back. There's a lot of things that just aren't working for me, and I don't really want a camera that's not going to do the job I need it to, but I'll get into that later. But today I thought I would come out and do some woodland photography and basically talk about how it's not as easy as it looks. I've had a few comments from people saying that I make woodland photography look easy, and when you get the shot it's great, but it's not easy. I do not find this easy. I have to think a lot. I have to find the right composition. Sometimes the tree looks really cool, but the background or what's around it just doesn't look right at all, so I don't end up taking the photo. Just because it's a cool tree doesn't mean it's going to be a good photo. So there's a lot that goes behind it. So depending on what I find today, that's what I wanted to discuss and just explain why I'm taking the shot and pretty much how and what goes behind it.
Searching for a seeing, someone who knows what is to come, 'cause the future's so deceiving.
There's a lot of elements that go into trying to find the right composition in a woodland, and one big thing that can make a huge difference is the light. And if I had the sun in the background, today's overcast, but if I had the sun in the background of a branch or a tree, that would make a huge difference to whether or not I'm going to take the photo, because sometimes that just adds a little element that makes the photo work, and sometimes that can cut out what's going on around it and take you away from the other distractions. But on a day like this, when it's completely overcast, I have to really look at things carefully, and the way the trees are at the moment, they're all pretty similar, so the image can look pretty flat, which doesn't help at all. So, and it really helps to go around, take your time with it, look at different trees in different ways, at different angles, and just see what's going to work, because even if the tree looks cool, sometimes none of the angles will work, and I've already seen that today. I've actually been walking around for 2 hours now already, and I've looked at some trees that have looked really cool, but no matter which angle I went in, it just didn't seem to work. Funny thing is, I have a really big thing for dead trees. I have no idea why, but I just love the way they look. Right now I've actually found this big tree that's fallen down here, and it just has this really nice look about it, and the fact that it's basically on its own now because it's fallen down. There's no other trees that are in front of it or behind it, apart from one little branch here, but I'm gonna take my photo around it and take a little bit from a good height, so you follow the tree all the way and down to the stump where the roots are full of moss, and it makes a really nice image. But what I like about it is the fact that it's basically different to everything else. It's on its own and it works for itself without any of the other distractions around and trees that look similar. It just has its own little element, and I think that's what makes this work. I'm going to shoot this at 1/200th of a second at f5.6. I have my ISO at 800. It's not exactly light today, so I'm having to put up my ISO, but that's fine. It's not really a problem. And I'm going to shoot this at 105 millimeters, just so I make sure I only get the tree and that's down on the floor and nothing else. Obviously, I'm going to get some of the grass and the moss that's around on the floor, but that's pretty much all I want. So yeah, let me just quickly take the shot and we can take a look. I just found this really interesting marshland here in between the two mountains where I am at the moment, and it's kind of cool. It has this really orange color on the grass and the moss underneath all these trees here. The trees are really interesting. They're kind of like this thin pine, and they're almost kind of eerie. They're very dead looking, but they still have their leaves on there. I just felt like this could make a really interesting image here. I did go all the way down just so I could see what it looked like at the same level of the trees, but it just looked a little bit too distracting. There was too many other elements in the background. And also I felt by coming up higher, I'll actually get the orange in and I'll use that as basically a background because of the angle. So I've actually found this one tree in the center here between two tall trees that are right here by me. And I just feel like it kind of helps to zone in on that, but there is still other trees around it that are distracting it, that are quite similar, so it is hard to kind of take it out and make it by itself. So what I might end up doing is actually taking the photo quite low, putting my camera in the moss and the grass that I have right by me, and just making a way of framing that tree at the bottom there, and using the leaves and everything that I have here to kind of add this little bit of a blurred out element, and it basically just brings you in a little bit more into that tree at the bottom there, and then you get a little bit of a green from that, and then you'll just get the orange at the bottom. But obviously what will make the difference is how I edit this in the end, and generally that is always what's going to make the difference to my images and your images, depending on what you do with them. So sure, you can get a really good photo in the forest and find something pretty cool, but it is what you do with the photo afterwards that makes a difference. More often than not, my images are okay looking until I've edited them, and that's where I get to bring in that artistic side. Anyway, let's just see what this shot looks like. I think it's going to be quite a nice one. I'm pretty pleased about what I found right now. I think it was cool because it's very different to everything else that's around here. But yeah, let's check this out. I just found something quite unique here. I'm not exactly sure it's going to work, but I was just thinking, and often when you find a marsh area, there is going to be somewhere where the water has to go. So I found this little trail of water coming down here, and it just led up to this interesting view here. There's these trees that are arching over each other and kind of creating this little frame in a way. And you got the stream running through it, and then you got two of these pine trees just set within that framing. I thought this could make quite an interesting image actually. I'm not entirely sure, but as I'm looking at it, it looks pretty cool. But often when you take the picture, it doesn't always end up that way, but it will, again, be my editing that makes the difference here. So I'm gonna try it out. I'm not sure if I wanna do this in vertical or landscape yet, but I'll see what I choose afterwards. And I'm actually gonna shoot this wide open at f4 and 200th of a second. I don't really care about getting all the background elements in focus. I'm gonna focus on those two little trees there. And because there's so much going on, I kind of want the background to be a little bit blurred out. So yeah, I think this could be interesting, but let's see if it actually is. The sun is just starting to appear and it's just making things just that little bit more interesting. I'm looking down the valley right now. There's just a huge drop right here, and there's these two trees just sticking between all the pine trees in the background, and they're completely alone, and they have these vibrant leaves just a few of them still left. It's not long until they're going to be bare now. Because the sun is out, they're just glowing and it's making this really interesting image. The background and the foreground is really dark and they're just sticking out so nicely. So I think this can make a really interesting image. I'm going to go for an f8 shot here. I just want to maximize the detail. Because the sun is shining on those leaves, I don't need to worry too much about it being too dark. What I'm actually trying to do is make sure the background and the foreground is darker. So by putting it out to f8, I'm just going to maximize that detail and draw that darkness in a little bit, just so that those leaves glow that little bit more. And again, I'm shooting at 1/200th of a second. But I think this is going to be really cool. This is one of those times where woodland photography just works. And the reason why it works is because those trees are completely singled out and the elements around it just actually feed into the image and make the image pop. Yeah, we got to look at this. Well, I think that's it for today. Got 4 images that I'm pretty pleased with. But now I'm gonna take a break and me and Luna can sit down, have something to eat before we start heading back down again and go home. But I think, yeah, I'm pretty happy with today. And funny thing is, I would say woodland photography is kind of like a Kinder egg. You don't really know what you're going to get until you've opened it and take a look inside. And that pretty much, I would say, is true. There are so many opportunities in woodland photography, but finding them is actually really hard. But I think this can vary depending on what kind of woodland you're in. Some woodland just works really well and it can be quite magical. The problem with where I am is most of the trees are almost absolutely identical, which makes it very hard to find things that stand out. But when you do find that thing that stands out, it just works and you can get some really great images. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this episode and I hope you kind of got something out of it and also saw that as much as I sometimes make it look easy, it's not. And I just kind of want to use this to encourage you to just go out, because sometimes you won't find something and sometimes you will, and when you do, it can be a really great image. But anyway, I hope we'll see you all again next time. Subscribe if you are new, and yeah, goodbye for now.